I was just chatting with Jody this morning about how I have these phases where, I'm ready, I'm getting down to the work, I'm doing the thing I'm supposed to be doing, I'm successfully doing the steps and incrementally moving towards completing a task, and then something pulls me away. Uh, but I'm letting something pull me away. So if my phone's next to me, I'm like, oh, I'm getting my taxes done. Let me check that text message and get distracted. And next thing you know, I'm on social media or whatever. So it's just kind of funny how we're starting the conversation, how we're about to do the clearing call, and now we're talking about other things going on all over the world. It just seems like it very aligned with what's been coming up this morning. To be absolutely honest with you, I had a great night's sleep, woke up before the alarm, got up ahead of schedule. Even Stella was up. She took care of her business, and I went, okay, I got a few minutes before I go wake my son up. I go off into the room, and then instead of meditating, which is the reason why I went in there, um, I ended up scrolling. And next thing you know, it was like 10 minutes past the time I needed to get him up. So, and I've just been kind of anxious all morning. So sometimes it's my own stuff, and sometimes before these calls, I've told Jody before, like almost 100% of these calls, Jody's like, "So are you ready? Do you know what you're going to talk about?" And I'm always like, "I don't know." But I'm also like this weird energy starts coming up, right? So it's um I don't know. I need to put up something up on the wall to remind me. On clearing call days, you're gonna feel weird stuff, and just allow it to be what it is. So I go through my process. I run through it. I have all the notes here. So just to bring um, uh, our new members up to speed, as far as what happens in these calls, this is basically a call to support all of you personally at the energetic level, emotional, spiritual level, wherever you're at in the journey of your business, but also how things outside of the business affects what's going on in the other way around. Um, Usually I come to the call with some themes that are coming up. They're generated through activity and evidence and things that are happening in the last like month or so or last couple of weeks. And sometimes it's just coming up literally that day. So what I do is I put it to my process of I just make some notes, generate some themes. I also do a Reiki reading. So from the seventh chakra all the way down to the root, I do readings on what these things, what are coming up, what's coming up from those themes. And I kind of riff on it a little bit with you guys. But the big thing is that we get everyone else involved and we have a conversation around it. And that's part of what begins the clearing process. So one of the things I thought of going into this clearing call was to bring some of the content and some of the stuff that came up in the recent 10-day reboot, just to share on what the reboot is. One of the only linear things that I do in my work is how I activate or help a client activate their own programming. So there's four different areas that you evaluate yourself in. One is your movement practice, your fueling strategies, is the second one. The third is your rest and recovery, and the fourth is your fun and fulfillment. Out of those things, I usually define what some of those things are, and then you can also define for you what those things are. But you rate each one out of five. After you've rated out of five, there's a overall score, like sort of like indicating where you're at. The goal is probably like 16 out of 20 or more for optimization and performance related stuff. But what's even more significant is the area of potential we find that are um, scoring lower, right? So from that process, we generate which of those four is scoring the lowest, and then in through your own planning conversation, sometimes when I'm working one-on-one with somebody, um, we figure out what the most highest yielding single micro task is that they can start impacting for 10 days straight in the reboot process. Okay. and I'm with them. I'm with you in this process every single day. So if it's meditation, you message me, say meditation complete. I respond. In this case, we did a WhatsApp chat and I was sending in videos every day. And we go through this process, right? So it's like a accelerated sort of micro cycle of things that'll happen in a bigger journey whenever we're transforming, right? So it's just a way to activate and a way to just say, the way to voice um, what you're gonna do and give yourself the opportunity to actually execute on what you said you're gonna do. Which is in the past for me has been a real challenge. Sometimes saying I'm gonna do this, this, and this. The minute I do it, there's a rebel inside of me that wants to screw it up, that wants to fuck around with it, wants to fuck around with the rules or whatever it is, right? So, and sometimes I decide where's that coming from? Is that beneficial or is the challenge to figure out a way to clear through that, right? Um, so we did this reboot recently, and some interesting things came up. Everyone had their own reboot experience. Luann participated in it, Jody and I participated in it, and we were to experience different versions of what this experience. In some cases, too, some people sometimes don't even make it past the first 3 days of whatever the task is. Some people take it on and it goes really well. Either way, it's neither right or wrong. Reboot one is not going to be the same as reboot 13, right? So there's always whatever the experience is that you need to receive at the time. That's all that really matters. Um, Things that tend to come up in this type of situation. Um, this is the part that I find most interesting, and it's usually flushed out in the first 5 days, is um, the need to be a perfectionist about the habit and how it's done, how it's executed. Sometimes our inner child comes up and wants to rebel or wants to create excuses or whatever. Sometimes there is this judge that makes what we do good or bad, right? A lot of this I find comes from just growing up and being in school where, you didn't get certain grades, there's a consequence, not the grades, not getting those grades and whatever, right? So um, there's sometimes overshooting the expectation when for a long time uh, they may have not been doing any movement and all of a sudden now they're overshooting and expecting I'm going to put in 1 hour a day at the gym, with my personal trainer, all these different things, making it way too hard to even achieve, right? Putting more stress, which is not the point, right? Or sometimes undershooting, like choosing something almost too easy to the point that nothing is really being impacted, nothing's really being sort of activated, right? So a lot of different things happen, allowing obstacles to come up, environmental things coming up, all these different things, right? So the truth with this for me is, for one, is like to challenge some of those old beliefs and those old paradigms, those old things in a very, I'd like to say, safe and controllable environment and controllable game, I like to call it. Right? So, but the first thing is it's your journey, it's your reboot, it's how you want to do it, and whatever you experience is perhaps all you need to have in that moment, even if you only last 2 days in this thing, right? It's neither right or wrong, except for whatever meaning that you add to it, right? Again, it comes back to the schooling stuff and the inner judge and all that stuff, right? The question too is also in the reboot. Sometimes people, regret how they approached a reboot and say, I feel like I started the first 2 days and then it got hard, so I backed out, so I failed, right? So um, that's an experience, right? My question is always, what if we did nothing? What if we didn't even introduce the idea? What if we didn't even try, right? There's nothing to experience if we do nothing, right? So, um, and like I mentioned before, reboot one is going to be different from reboot 5 or 13 or 26, right? I do this with everyone every time, and I experience something new every time, right? So with that in mind, that kind of flushed out a bunch of things for me for today's call. And um, some these are the three main things that came up for me. And then I'll spin it over to you guys because I need to get the feedback to kind of know what direction to take this. So the first thing that came up for me for today's call was uh, and again, it's what inspired my reboot is um, when we know what we need to know for now, meaning, have you ever experienced like you're reading books, taking courses, doing webinars and stuff like that, and everything starts to sound the same? Like you come away from it. I went on this big uh I went on this conference thing in Vegas back, a while back in 2007 or something with my cousin. And I took in a workshop from one of the one of the people that was in the movie The Secret. And it was an amazing performance. It was a very, impressive sort of like 3 days or whatever. But when I came back, my client asked me while I was stretching him out, he's like, it sounds pretty cool. Vegas sounds cool, but what did you learn that you didn't already know? And I was like, good point. And he's like, isn't it just come down to applying yourself? And I found I was doing a lot of these courses and things at the time where I was actually learning a lot of stuff I already knew. Okay. One thing I share sometimes is when I sit down and try to meditate and download new ideas and concepts and stuff, sometimes my spirit guides will cut me off. And I'll say, you have enough information, apply it. Right? So the first theme is when we know everything we need to know, what is the sign for that? And where do we go next from that point? So with the reboot, I've simplified when I first started doing it, it was so simplified down that let's just apply what I already know and actually try the concepts before I try to create some new program, some new other thing, right? So that's the first thing. The second one is application over insight. Application over insight. So again, more reading, taking in, um, things we see on social media, whatever it is. And just like what my client was saying before, it's like, what did you learn that you didn't already know? Isn't it more about application or implementation, right? So that's one thing I had to learn when I just decided to stop doing more reading and doing more courses. Um, I I started to take inventory of what I what I know to be true so far. And when I sat with that, that's when some of the most profound things came up, and philosophies and systems and core values and all these different things that I wasn't allowing myself to receive because I was constantly going out of my outsourcing to learn from others, right? So um when we're too full to learn, the first one, the second one, application over insight, and the third one, um, what does it look and feel like when you're finally moving forward? Like is what I was telling you guys this morning about telling you about what I was experiencing this morning. What does it look and feel like when you are being steered away from your big opportunity to have a shift, right? What I'm experiencing now in the last couple of years is different from what I was experiencing in the past. Um, I'm not too sure why, but um, it's really strange. I find I get into something and then something just deviates the other way around. The great thing is there's some things that I do where I actually tell Jody, like, let's be in the same room while I work on this, So, what does it look like for you? What comes up for you when you're working away on something or you're making progress and something is kind of tapping your shoulder, trying to get you to steer away from it? Okay, so these are just the three things that are coming up, and I think that is what's needing to be cleared right now. But um, I'll share more on the energetic stuff later. But as far as what I've shared so far, even if it's just one thing, um, What resonates from what I've shared so far with any of you? Just put up a hand or whatever and just start adding to this conversation.
I think it's it's interesting because I'm not even sure you actually talked about this, but it was coming up in my own head. So that how great those
Yeah.
things work. But like as I lean into something new, like I've been working on trying to develop coaching for 3 years. Successful private practice here. So I really want to steer away from that. And but I feel like I've tried all the things and haven't had success with it. So I have this block that comes up every time I try to lean in and look, we're going to do this. This block that comes up and it's like, well, this isn't going to work either. Like this
Yeah.
is going to be another thing that we're going to be putting some time and energy and money and etc. And it's just going to be the same story again. And why don't you just give up on it and go get a job at Starbucks?
Yeah.
So I think that like that's what's been coming up. I would say coming up even before this call, like for like I even remember having that feeling last night. Like I was just like, well, I I could just quit it all and just do my private practice. As if that's not enough. Like
Mm.
I am an chronic overachiever and multi-passionate individual. But whenever I try to lean in to do something, I have this like this is gonna fail too feeling. And it's like backed by the experience of previous failures. It's not just like it has no founding evidence, but it just
Mhm.
comes like, well, like this is gonna fail too. Like I'm all dressed for my networking event that I'm going to later today.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, well, what's the point? It's just gonna fail. And I'm like, get that out of my head.
Yeah, yeah. I love
I
that. Yeah, I love that you shared that because I've experienced that myself. Like I've been through that as well. And you get on a consult, like a coaching consult. You've been following this guy on Instagram for ages. I'm gonna tap it. He says book the call, right? And the call feels amazing. You feel like you're being heard and all that stuff. And then part of me goes, well, what makes me think this is gonna work? Right? And
Mhm.
so I get it. And that what that is, I describe this as the when we talk about the 3.0 CEO version of us, like that's the 1.0 version of us that just doesn't exist in that level of performance, right? So um I sat down one time and wrote a letter to my 1.0 self. This is quite some time ago. I wrote a letter to him and said, "It's been good. Thanks for keeping me safe, but I'm in charge now. You don't have to go, but you're not making decisions anymore, you know? So there's part of it is as we move into this, we're moving into new domains, like new ways of being, new versions of us, new ways of doing things. And again, with the reboot, it's a practice. It's like a basic training or a game we can play to practice and strengthen the muscle of just behaving differently, right?
Mhm.
And then seeing what happens
Mhm.
when it comes up, right? And applying things that I've learned actually, techniques and things that when I see it coming up again, I can clear myself. I get like 1.0 was here in full force, like literally about a half an hour before I got on this call. So I ran through my process and here I am in the call, right? So thank you for sharing that because I think even for everyone, for those here and those listening to the recording, I don't think it's uncommon that comes up, right? That's a very common one. How's this going to work again, right?
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing that one. Anyone else have anything else coming up?
I want
Yes.
to just jump in for a sec.
Yep.
So in the chat, you guys, I just popped a quick little message in there. So when we're thinking about all these like limiting beliefs, right? It's not going to work out for me. It never does. Da da da. It's like, what is the belief that we can replace that with? So that every time that thought pops into your head, you can go, no, I'm not listening to that. Right? Here's the new one. Right? So I just gave you
Yeah.
an example in here. Like instead of saying it's not going to work out for me, it's like everything I've been through has led me to where I am right now, and I'm right on time.
Yeah.
right? You're going in with experience, you're going in knowing. We had a whole conversation about it yesterday. You're looking for one or two really great people that you connect with, that you really like, that you'd want to hang out with. Like, that's it, right? So just you're going in with new information, maybe you're going in with a different sort of perspective on it. You've done this
Mm.
stuff before, right? And we know that we're going in to meet those couple of people, to book a call with those couple of people, and just like start spreading the vibe, right? You know that the techniques that we're going to use in the next 3 months are different than what you've done before. So every time that that thought pops up, it's like, delete. I don't need that thought. Here's the other one. And so, as far as the 10-day reboot goes, your reboot could be that every morning you are journaling with this new affirmation, or multiple, or whatever, right? And every morning you decide you're going to write it 5 times. And
Mhm.
that's your reboot. Every single day for 10 days, you write it 5 times in the morning, for example, right? And it's just a small habit that could take you like 5 minutes, and just get it done. And then you're going to start to rewire your brain, right? And rewire what it's telling you, and tell those limiting beliefs to just go over there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
like
I think that that would be a great
mm,
reboot for me because I'm really good at like replacing it.
mhm.
Yep.
But what I struggle with is believing it,
Yeah.
if that makes
Okay.
sense. Like I can come
So,
up with the other, but maybe with the practice and the repetition, we'll just brainwash myself into believing it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also like a way for you to write it, right? Like, I'm sure you've heard this stuff before, but I'll just say it again. Like, if you're writing an affirmation that says, I am a 7-figure business owner, and
My brain's like,
you're,
no,
then you're
not
like,
true.
no. But if you say, I am becoming a 6-figure business owner, maybe that's a little closer to where things are. And
Mhm.
the becoming part feels more okay. Like, yeah, I'm not there yet, but I'm becoming that, right? And so if we can change the words a little bit to make it believable, and then what you'll notice is, as you continue to write the affirmations, like this happened to me a few weeks ago, I started to change the wording that I was using, because when I used to say things like, I am safe to, or I am allowed to, that part feels good now. So now
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I am da da da, right? So the language that I'm using changed. The rest of it didn't, right? But the language that I'm using changed, because as I wrote it, I was like, yeah, okay, this feels good. I'm good. I don't need to write
Mhm.
this anymore. But I need to write the next level of it, which is that I am it, right? Not I'm becoming it, and not I'm safe, and not I'm whatever, because those are clear, right? So that would be a really great reboot for you, is just choose a few, one affirmations, two, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't need to be like sticky about it. And every day at some point, you're writing for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I will work on.
yeah, there was a period where when I first separated and moved out and we're living in in a new place, and I was waking up in the morning really anxious, like freaking out, like the single dad vibes, just like, wow, this is like you hear about it, but I've never experienced it before till now. And it got to the point where the bridge for me was just literally saying, I'm okay. I'm okay. Right? I'm okay because da da da. I'm okay, and then became I'm good. I'm doing great, right? But I had to start with, for a while, I started with just I'm okay. Believable enough, right? So, but
Yeah.
it's totally changed in the last 2, 3 years. What the things I can write down and believe now are very different, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think Luann and Viva both looked like they were going to
yeah,
say something.
yeah, Viva had something to share. What do you got there?
And then Luann,
Yeah.
we'll go you two right after.
Yeah, I think I definitely resonated with what both of you said. And Amy, yeah, I'm a high achiever as well, and it can always feel like, you're on this wagon trying to meet your expectations, which are always so high and almost never just getting there, always trying to get there and never getting there. And I agree with what Jody and Brian said here as well about um, it just being a thought. And I agree that the block is there. And the block probably wants you to know something, and I would try to write from the block or
Mhm.
hear the block, because sometimes the blocks are there to protect us and they believe something,
Mhm.
right? And it could be some kind of fear that's behind the block, which once you uncover and understand, can then make believing the other truth easier. But what Brian said about this whole just chasing more information, being on courses, and I've done that for like the last 4 years. I've been on like 2, 3 courses simultaneously. And at some point, I was just like, I'm so done. I'm so done. And last year, I was on this course, year-long coaching program, which was so intense, and but really empowering as well. And I just had this feeling of satiation. Like I was like, I'm done. And for the first time, I picked up a fiction book. I read a lot, and I haven't read fiction in like years. It's been ages. So I just reached this point where I was like, hey, I can let go. And I think this whole being on the chase of like more information, more courses was just me trying to control the outcome. And I think at some point I just surrendered, and I enjoyed a really nice fiction book.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting. I was feeling super empowered last year, and everything was going great, and I was doing workshops, and suddenly that path kind of closed for me, and I felt like I was again starting from scratch, and I felt like I fell off the wagon,
Mhm.
and I just didn't expect this to happen. And now I'm in the middle kind of a zone, trying to figure out what my next step is. And I, like Amy, I also think about, oh, just go and get a job. But I don't know why at this point, anytime I think about a job, my heart just like, just
Yeah.
like a flower just dies. It
Yeah.
feels like that. So I know that's not my path. And that keeps me on my plan A, because now I just know there is no plan B,
Yeah.
and there is no job.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's just this. And when I think like that, I'm just like, then we got to make this work. We just got to find better ideas.
Yeah.
And
Love it.
yeah, so I'm here right now because I was feeling very different just 2 months ago, and I don't know what this is, but I'm just being here for now.
Yeah, I love it
Happy here.
because I find too that I've done this when I was leading trainers in the club before. Like sometimes they'd come to me and in a sense I'm kind of mentoring them because I had like 5, 10, 15 years in the work ahead of them, and I'll say like, sometimes in our industry there's no, this is before social media too. Like there's no shortage of experts and gurus and people to go see, and take out a credit line to go to watch this conference or whatever. Like there's all these different things that we could do that makes us feel like we're doing something. But I tell them also, whatever you've been up to in the last 10 years is partly what you've mastered. So like take an inventory of what you've been up to, right? Um, because you can actually create your systems around that, or you could like, there's no accident the type of people that you're attracting, right? If you look around, you see trainers, 10 trainers on the gym floor, they all seem to have a certain theme or type of client that attracts to them. I don't think that's any accident, right? So I tell them like to go back, let's take inventory, of everything about what you've accomplished so far. Outside of your education, outside of your formal training, outside of certifications you've done, what else are you really good at, right? And then it kind of like it activates something in them, right? And they go, yeah, I think I can do this, right? And let's build something around that. Like if they want to do a talk or something, do a talk, or if you're going to write an article and put it in the newsletter or whatever, like they just start getting really in this creative space again, right? So it really empowers and activates what's already there that they just kind of forgot, right? Yes, Luann.
So I did do the 10-day reboot, and I think those first few days wanting it to be perfect,
Hmm.
some resistance about I don't feel like it, or it's pissing down rain.
Yeah.
I don't want to go walking.
Yeah.
And I know in that was one of the things that kind of had to evolve from it is, this isn't about perfect. Um, you know, some movement is still better than no movement. And then when Jody and I were talking, she gave me, some really good tips of instead of, deciding, 3 weeks in advance or all of it, do it a week at a time. Because then you're actually looking at what is actually feasible this week. And I know you're both fairly new. So if you haven't had a chance to look at Jody's calendar and how to set that up, it is amazing because it reminds us that how much time do we really have? We might say we're dropping the kids off at 9 and getting started with the first call at 10, but we forgot about the commute. We forgot about the transition time. And so what is actually realistic in that?
Yeah.
um, and then from the quarterly planning, I now have the question, do I like my reason?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great
Because
one. I want to expand on that when you're done. Just for sure.
um, and so I am one of the ones that is all in for continuing for the 30 plus days because I know my millionaire self needs to keep moving.
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys will be able to join. We have a WhatsApp chat that's separate because not everybody decided to go into the reboot. But if you guys want to, you'll be able to join the WhatsApp chat. We'll send you the link. But I just want to quickly say, I just want to quickly talk about the do you like your reason? So that is something that came up when we were talking about, setting these goals or setting expectations for ourselves. And when things come up and we end up deciding not to do whatever it is, it's like we just have to ask ourselves, do I like my reason for not doing it? And if your reason is my kid is like crazy sick and I'm picking them up from school and I'm bringing them home and I'm going to spend time with them, then you might decide you like your reason. And that's a good reason for you not to get in your workout today. But if keep pushing something back because you're scared of it, or, you don't feel like doing it, or, a friend invited you out for dinner, then maybe that's not really a great reason. Maybe you need to decide, no, I'm going to do this thing first and then I'm going to go out for dinner. You know what I mean? So I learned that from Laura Jackson, who was our mindset coach. And it's super helpful to just like use that to decide so that you can know in the moment if you're making excuses or if it's something that really is a good reason. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I wrote an article when I had one of my older websites. I wrote a blog once called it's funny, the image I put there was the rear view of a woman looking out a window. And the title of the article was Your Excuses Are Valid.
Mm.
Right? In a way, what I'm saying is I'm acknowledging that life happens, stuff happens, people have kids or whatever. And at the time, I don't know if we had Ryan or if I wasn't a dad yet, but like there's this one client I had that had five kids. And like I'm thinking like people are finding a way to get shit done, right? So I'm like, but at the same time, I don't wake up in your bed. I don't wear your shoes. I don't walk through your life. So yeah, shit is probably could be hard or there's definitely stuff. So I think acknowledging it first as a part of the challenge is could be a benchmark or a starting point of which we create solutions, right? So I find that jumping straight to like, change your mindset and or just make yourself do it. Like for me, it's never really been effective, right? I just recently during my son's hockey season, there was some players were having some issues, and the coach just finally had a one-to-one conversation with one or two of these players, and he came back to me and he said, "It sounds like they just want to be heard." I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, I mean, if we're telling them what to do and they're not doing it over and over and over again, maybe they didn't wake up one morning and decide they want to fuck up the team. Maybe something is kind of a barrier that they're frustrated with that they need to have voiced, and we actually don't really have to do anything but just listen to them, right? I find that with the challenges we have when we do something like this, or we activate a new program, or we're launching a new thing we've never launched before. Um, it activates things that make it a little bit scary, and a lot of people say too. So I've heard sometimes too, like take that anxiety and just recognize it as excitement, right? The excitement before I hate rides, but if you're lining up to get on a roller coaster, right? It's probably more stressful for me than it is for other people, but there's an anxious or a excited kind of energy, right? And the worst part of the whole thing is lining up and going up that first hill. And then once you go flying down, that's where you get the experience of the outcome, right? So this is great. Just to walk through a little bit of what I got in on the energetic side when I was doing the reading on this is um, the seventh chakra, the third eye, the heart, and the solar plexus, all sort of in rapid flow of energy, like sort of rapid. Sometimes I call it stress, but it's more of like excited, rapid flowing energy, right? Like a dam is closed, and when you open the dam, the water floods through at a high rate at first until it levels off. So usually I recognize that as a shift is happening, right? Um, but the three areas that were blocked, and I'll start with the primary one first. The primary one is actually the root chakra, which is the area of safety and security, family, tribe. The main word I got was primal activation. So when we're doing something new, it can activate a sort of a primal response, like a protective primal response, right? A voice that says, "Wait a minute, this is not familiar, right? This doesn't feel safe. Change doesn't feel safe," sort of thing, right? And this the systems that the 1.0 version of us uses in some of these high stress situations may not serve where we're going next, right? In the 2.0, 3.0 version or of our business, right? So it's just something to recognize first. A lot of things I do with people, especially in the early stages of the work I do with you guys and with clients, is a lot of self-awareness, a lot of like observing. There's one, I call it a tool. It's basically a Word document telling you to do nothing, but just observe. I call it the lifestyle audit. So for the next 3 to 5 days, just pay attention. Just audit for what you're doing. Like when you wake up in the morning, when do you pick up your phone? All these different things. You'd be surprised how many different things that actually happen before you even get to your first coffee, right? Automatically just happening. Are they serving your performance? Are they serving your next level, or are they just keeping you in the same patterns, right? So the primal activation happens when we do something like this reboot or something where we're changing things. Expect it, right? And then there's a lot of different techniques and things that we can do to kind of like diffuse it a little bit so we can continue moving forward in the process. The second one is in the sacral, so moving up to the hips and area, the power center here. Um, when this other voice comes in, imagine, have any of you ever driven with somebody next to you in the passenger seat that has an opinion of when you should be putting on your signal, when you should turn, what lane you should be in, how fast you should drive? Um, and notice how your driving performance gets worse, right? At least for me, right? Now I'm more distracted with my driving and I'm braking harder or I'm missing things now because what is that person going to say next that is not gonna prove in the way I'm driving the car, right? One time I drove I was at a social event for a work situation, and for whatever reason, one of our colleagues, his wife was in the car with me, and we were moving the car to a parking spot, and I had to turn around and back up, and she said, "Wow, you're such a great driver." And I was just like, I'm just not used to that. There's this voice in my head like making me paranoid about the amount of times I failed my driver's test or whatever when I was younger. So like just I realized also at the time I didn't know, but I actually one of my love languages is words of affirmation, right? Which by the way, Jody's really amazing at words of affirmation, right? So knowing what you need to actually reinforce your performance as well, right? Um, so what is grabbing the wheel? What or who is grabbing the wheel, right? Could it be a person? Could it be 1.0 version of you, a child, inner child, could be a parent, could be a school teacher, something in the past that made you feel wrong for learning, right? Be aware of that, and you can kind of we again, it's another thing that we can diffuse and sort of like dissolve so we can continue moving forward and activating voices that have something more useful to say to help us perform better. The third one is the throat. And one thing that I mentioned before earlier is um, doing what we say we will do with no compromise, right? I forget. This is actually interesting. In the WhatsApp chat on the reboot, I shared that I had downloaded 3 questions. Um, I only wrote one of the questions. Um, the question I wrote was if you were to, I don't want to go into my phone right now, but if I were to guess what it was, Luann, Jody, let me know if you if you remember what it was, but something along the lines of like, if you were to change something, what would it be that would shift your performance?
Is it this one that you just put in yesterday?
Yeah.
If there was zero resistance and you were to just keep going, what would be the possibilities?
Yes. And here's the
One?
answer, at least for me, here's the answer right now. Um, Being able to do what I say I'm going to do with zero compromise. And it's just done. By this time at 3 p.m. today, I will do X, Y, and Z impeccably, zero compromise, right? I have been able to do that. I like to do it more often. I like to do it with things that are annoying or uncomfortable that I don't want to do, that I'm more likely to avoid. But um, this is it's an ongoing sort of exercise sometimes whenever we're moving to another level because we're behaving and we're acting, behaving, speaking in a different way, right? We're trying a new version of something on, right? So with zero compromise, just execute on the plan, right? What are the practices that we have in place to clear any resistance around that, right? Those are the 3 areas that are coming up that all in the meditation I'm going to take us through. We're going to sort of complete with. But before we go into that, anything else coming up for anyone here, or any questions or any comments or
I'm going to say that landed.
yeah. All right.
And it's been a theme across so many interactions I have had this week
Mm,
of, questioning what's going on in their environment and just that um sometimes feeling safe, sometimes feeling unsafe, and how to navigate that.
yeah. Okay. All right. Anyone else? You good to go? Amy looked like she was almost gonna hit unmute. There you
I was thinking about it.
go.
I
Yeah.
was like, Maybe. I don't know. Like I have a core negative belief that I've been trying to shake for a while.
Hmm.
Even working with my own therapist, I always say every good therapist has a good therapist.
Hmm.
Can work for coaches too. But um, and I feel like every time I start something new like this, it comes back up. Like, and that core negative belief is I will never be successful. And it's super like I'm aware that it's really unhealthy and I know some of the roots. I've uncovered those and I still can't quite shake it. And what's crazy is I have people like even my therapist is like, you do realize from the outside, you everybody would look at you and say you are successful. And I'm like, yeah, but no. Like, and I think some of that was that whole like as soon as you achieve something, you move the bar and then you move the bar.
Yeah.
Like I always say, that the dark side of growth mindset is that sometimes you're just never content.
Hmm.
Uh, and so like I think that's part of it. But I also think it that there is a reality that like traditionally I have been successful in making a difference, not making a paycheck.
Hmm.
And I think I'm holding that over myself. Like I told Jody, people love my free resources. They love them. And I've worked for nonprofits where people get my services for free and they rave about me. And my insurance clients love to only pay a copay and get the help from me and
Hmm.
like all these things. But like when it comes to people investing, like that's where that block is for me, is like, because I have tried so many different things and feel like the only things that are successful are my free things. And it gets exhausting.
Yeah.
But that's that core negative belief that keeps coming up. And it's like, shh,
Yeah.
you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for what's coming next for you.
You know, I keep moving forward. It hasn't
Yeah.
stopped me yet. Like,
Yeah.
that's the impressive part. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am successful and continuing to move forward.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks
We've
for
had,
sharing
yeah.
that. Sorry. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, this is like you are not alone in this. You
Hmm.
know, everyone, not everyone, but lots of people have money stuff for whatever reason. They have it in their brain. Like, the background of mine is my parents were really humble. So it was like, don't talk about the money. Don't tell anyone. Don't talk about the money. Don't be the best. Just be quiet. Like, do well, but be quiet about it, you know? So everyone has their own like thing. But thank you for sharing. And I'm sure you've done a ton of, it sounds like you've done lots of work on this already and you've been aiming for it. But I think that if this is something that is either new or maybe you haven't done it in a while, that doing the 10 days with writing it and writing that new empowering belief, like that has been such a game changer for me in changing my money mindset. So if you haven't done it in a while or at all, let's get on that.
I'm going to get one of my empty journals that are like 2 page
Yeah.
journals out and take
Yeah.
those pages out and start clean.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Thanks for
That's
sharing.
great. Like with one thing I'll just share because like in even just little couple years is really this is really advanced for me as far as like what I'm capable of believing now, as far as what I struggled to believe with in the past is just by the practice, whether it be saying things out loud, meditating on it and visualizing it, writing it by hand. If you write an affirmation you've never said out loud before by hand, it's like someone is grabbing your hand and preventing you. Ever write with your non-dominant hand? That's what it feels like for me sometimes when I'm writing an affirmation that's new that I've never sort of embodied yet. It's like I don't even know how to write until the neural pathways get laid down. Then I start to write it confidently, right? I'm gonna share one of my affirmations that I do to just um, initiate the process of shifting my mindset. And I'm not saying this is the right thing. I'm not saying you have to do this or whatever, but this is what one thing that's come to me in the last little while. I'll drop it in the chat after I read it. Um, I am that I am an extension of source, imagining, creating, and actualizing anything my heart desires to be, do, and have right now. and until the end of time. It is done, it is done, it is done. Thank you. Amen. I say it 3 times and something shifts by a third time. And then I can get into my money affirmations. Then I get into my health affirmations. I'm able to embrace the other ones after I've kind of like completely reset myself with this one. So I'm going to share this in the chat just as an example, right? Um, and you can play with this. You can do it however you want to do it, right? Whatever works for you. But this one has worked really well for me in resetting me right out of the gate before I get into the other things in my journaling practice. So, and with that, I'm just gonna set us up to do this meditation. We'll close out. Okay, so you can sit back, relax. You can lie down. You can camera off. Luann's already gone. She's already going to do it. She's already probably getting comfortable. She knows the drill. I'm going to put some music on in the background and just listen, close your eyes, listen, breathe, relax into it. And here we go. Okay, just take a breath in. And let it go. On every exhale, release any tension, resistance, anything you notice in your body. And just sink into your chair or just let your body just relax. Breathing in again, all the way in. And let it go. That's good. Another breath from all the way down from your feet, all the way to the top of your head. All the way up to the crown. And hold when you get there. And let it go. Bring your attention to the crown. Imagine white light coming down, touching the top of your head. And when you're ready, just allow that light to come through your body, all the way down to the center core of your body, expanding out, going down through your feet, back into the earth, circulating back up, back down into the crown, just flowing all the way through. Each time passing through, it's clearing any energetic clutter, thoughts, words, old cells, anything you no longer require to move forward, clearing space for new opportunities, new experiences, new ideas, new thoughts, new ways of being. Just allow that to flow through you, clearing it out, allowing space for what comes next, whatever you choose to come next. Bring your attention from the crown to the third eye and into the mind, again, circulating through the mind, clearing those thoughts and words you no longer need. Those conversations that are no longer relevant. Inviting in new conversations, empowering beliefs. And taking a breath in and dropping down to the throat and neck, tops of the shoulders, relax the shoulders, loosen the neck. Throat chakra, area of communication, willpower, habits and choices. Activating the new words, the new word arrangements to reinforce who we're becoming next, activating that greatness inside of us that already exists, allowing it to come through in our thoughts, words, and deeds. Breathing in and out, dropping down to the heart, the upper body, arms and hands. Each time you breathe in gratitude, and as you breathe out, just send that love out into the world like a big ripple, expanding out, breathing in all that love and sending it back out. And breathe in again. And as you exhale out, you're going to drop down to the solar plexus in the abdomen, cleansing the organs, the area of self-esteem, self-confidence, self-expression. Again, expanding our capacity to hold and receive new opportunities, new relationships, new business. Also expanding our capacity to deliver in this growing space. Being able to show up for those that are attracted to our high frequency field. And breathing in to the core. All right, let it go. Dropping down to the hips. The power center, where your sexual power is, your creative power, and your connection to your financial flow. Good, staying connected to the source of your power. And through choice, managing where your power goes, where your energy goes, but also where you go to plug back in and regenerate yourself. So you're always able to bring your best. And breathing in. And dropping down into the lower body, from the hips to the knees, from the knees down to the ankles, feet, and toes. Planting your roots deep into the earth, strong and stable. This area where you're safe, secure, stable, strong, grounded. No matter what happens, you can come back to this place, this home. Good. Just feel that certainty, that strength. That's good. From your feet, breathing all the way up again to the crown. And hold. And let it go. And again, bottom to top. Hold. And let it go. And last one, bottom to top. And hold. And release. Just observe for a moment, observe the vibration in your body. Just be there for a moment. And when you're ready, move your attention to the heart. And when you're ready, you're going to take a gentle half breath in. And when you breathe out, just open your eyes. And when you're ready, just come on back.